I moved from California in 1998 to Alaska. It was a radical change geographically, economically, socially, I mean, every way. And just lifestyle's different up here. It's definitely a rugged place to live, aside from being inside of a city. Remote Alaska is really something I felt drawn to, being out to those places where not a whole lot of people live and not a lot of people get to. It was in 1999 when I took my first ministry team into an Eskimo village. And that summer we had just a great time, and I was hooked from there. I saw the need. I saw young people who just needed more than just a program. They needed more than just some sort of a state-mandated program. What they needed was people. They needed personalities. They needed people who would just invest and dig into their lives and love on them and be there for the long haul. And so I've been doing it ever since. And in 2003, I got invited to the Yukon Flats region, which is the upper Yukon. The Yukon River's over 2,400 miles long, so it's this massive piece of water that's just crazy big. I mean, you can literally get lost for weeks on this river. It is so big. There's so many turns. We're on just one channel of the Yukon right now. Just one small channel that comes on the North Channel. We're a half a mile from our camp. So here it was 2003, and we took a team on the river and started building relationships with people in different villages. This is a Gwich'in-Athabascan region. And after doing this for several years on the river, we had an offer to build a camp on some native allotment land, and we felt that that would be a better venue to bring all the young people in who just needed more time and attention. It's completely remote here. I mean, I was told by my peers, other camp directors and ministers, hey, don't go that far. It's going to be way too expensive. It's going to be way too difficult. It's going to be dangerous. It's going to be logistically impossible to go out into some remote location on the Yukon River and build a camp. Well, we did it anyway. And it was amazingly expensive, but a lot of people partnered with us and joined in. It was definitely dangerous. Some pretty crazy stories from bad weather to waves to river and to bears, all kinds of things going on. But when you look in the eyes of these kids, it was worth it all. That's why we came out here. We came out here because these kids, and you look in these young people's eyes and you see the hurt, you see the anguish, you see the pain. Some of them have lost their parents, some have lost a parent, siblings, some to unnatural deaths, and much of it alcohol related or just because of the roughness of Alaska. And so these are kids that were hurting and just needed hope and needed somebody to believe in them and build a camp for them. And so that's why we do a suicide prevention camp. We're here because of the kids. Anywhere in Alaska we go because of the young people. We want to give them a chance. We believe in the young people. We don't believe that they're the future. We believe that they're the right now, that right now they can make an impact and make a difference. Danger. It's everywhere on the Yukon. Oh man, you don't want to go in this water. I mean, you see behind me, it looks like it's flowing pretty easy from the surface, maybe moving about 8 or 10 miles an hour, but underneath it's turbulent and it's deep. And if you fall in the river, the first thing we tell you is you got to take your boots off and take your pants off if you're free floating, because your clothes will fill up with silt and it'll drag you right to the bottom. And many a family out here has lost a loved one, has lost a child, has lost a friend or a father because they weren't prepared. And I don't care how good a swimmer you are. If you fall in the Yukon, there's a good chance that you're not coming out. It's a rugged place, yet people lived here for hundreds of years, maneuvering in canoes and little boats, and have progressed into larger boats that we're in like right now. But this is their livelihood. This is how they go to their fish camps, and this is how they go set their nets. Right now we're in fishing season. The salmon are starting to come upriver, so the locals are collecting their fish, and they'll dry it and they'll smoke it and they'll save it for the winter. It's a rugged life, subsistence, but it's a wonderful life. It's a hard life, but it's a healthy life. If you travel 150 miles downriver, you'll hit the bridge, which is on the Haul Road. That's how we come out of camp at the end of the summer. So it's 150 river miles to the closest road. That road then is 160 miles to the closest city. So we're pretty remote. If you go upriver, you'll go 150 miles to the village of Circle, which is on the south bank upriver, and that'll be where we put in. And so to take the boat in the water or out of the water, either way we have to go in either direction, 150 miles. We're pretty remote. So we have this 300-mile span of water, and we put a camp right in the middle of it. And so people say, why'd you go and build it in such a remote location? Because that's where these people live. That's where they grew up. That's where their families and their grandfathers and their father's father, that's where they grew up, was on this land. And there's 8 major villages in this area. Some are as small as 20 people and some 800 people. The interior of Alaska is amazing in the summertime. We have 24-hour sunlight. Here it is July, mid-July, and it's midnight, and the sun is shining on my face. Midnight sun, it's amazing. You go out and check a fish net and do your work and get things done, and it's actually kind of hard to sleep for some people, our visitors and our teams that come in. It's just so different for them, and it's so remote. People that come out here, they always say, wow, it's so remote. I feel like I'm in the middle of nowhere, because they're actually in the middle of nowhere. But right in the middle of nowhere is all these villages, and these people are just pretty amazing, and they're pretty resourceful people, have lived here for so long and for hundreds of years. And the young people of this region, they're worth our investment. They're worth all of our time, our blood, our sweat, and our tears. And that's what happens to our teams that come up, man. They work hard, but they catch the vision. They know they're not just doing it to build some sort of empire out in the woods. They know that they're not just building some hunting lodge or a camp for somebody, but they're actually building a camp that changes lives, a camp that makes a difference in an entire region of people. And the Athabascan people here are just an amazing people. And the young people just need some help. They need some encouragement. So what we usually do in the summertime to come in and set up for camp, we bring our teams in early May. We wait for the breakup to happen. Breakup is when the ice breaks up, not when people break up, although probably some of that happens too. Construction and camp development is imperative. It's so important here. Our team, the size that it is, would take years and many years to even get as far as that we have. We need a lot of help. So we bring up teams into Alaska from the lower 48, from churches and schools and clubs and groups, and sometimes even families who want to take a vacation and kind of make it a missions trip, and they come up and do some work. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice goes into a place like this. Behind me is a small work team that's here, and they've been here for a week, and they're expanding our tool shed so that we can get our equipment inside away from the bears. The bears are relentless, and as soon as you leave camp, if it's made of rubber, they chew it up. If it's made of plastic, they seem to enjoy that flavor, and they love anything that's petroleum oil. So gasoline and oil and whatnot, we have to lock it up or we lose it. The bears will just lick it up, eat it, tear it apart, and just shred things. So we have to lock things up. We have really heavy construction down here. These walls are going to be a couple inches thick, solid wood that we've been milling down here from trees that we've gathered upriver, had to drag them down and then debark them and put them on our sawmill. It's quite a procedure to get one stick of wood, but we don't fly in any wood. We don't boat in any wood. Everything that we have here, we got with our hard work and got with our hands. And we had to go and cut trees way upriver and bring them downriver and float them. And here we are, some construction. We're really excited about this new garage extension. It'll hold four-wheelers and large equipment, and that's something we need for our camp. These teams are so excellent. Our teams come in every summer, and without them, we wouldn't get anything done. Without them, we just wouldn't be able to build this camp. They invest their finances and their time, and I'll tell you what, every one of them say they've never worked so hard. But at Camp Nashi here with TGM in the interior of Alaska, right here on the Yukon River. It's amazing work. It's been pretty crazy. We've been watching a bear the last couple of days outside of camp. And last night we saw a big old bull moose. So it's a lot of fun out here too, but a lot of work to be had. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's not uncommon for bears to be attracted to the music, the smells, the food, the activities. Instead of being scared away like you think they might be, they just kind of move on. I remember one night I was up in the front, and I was actually praying with some kids, and I see a large bear coming from my right, another one coming straight ahead, and another one coming from the left. We had 3 bears moving in on us at the same time. And the whole time, man, we got 60 some kids in there, and it was pretty crazy having to send our staff out to shoo the bears away and not cause a lot of noise and try to scare them off, and we deal with them later. When they become a problem, they then become lunch. We don't waste any meat in Alaska, and we definitely take them legally and take them properly and don't waste any meat. I mean, everything comes off the bone. If there's any way to scare them out of camp and send them on their way, we do that. But often they come into camp and they come in to do damage, and they come in to cause some trouble, and so we have to take care of them. I remember one year I was down on the dock, and we were loading a boat, and there was this problem bear that we had that was a really issue for several weeks. And one of our staff said, "Hey, Pastor Ron, that bear's crossing the river." And I look up, sure enough, this bear's large black bear. He's actually a cinnamon bear. He's crossing the river. And so I grabbed my pistol and I just went off into the woods and found kind of an ancient trail that I had a feeling he was going to be on. And I knelt down, and sure enough, here he came. And he came up to 37 yards, I found on the rangefinder. And he smelt me, but he couldn't see me. So he stood up to try to get a better vantage point, and that's when I dropped him. Drilled him right through the chest, and he came down and went down really hard, hit some vitals, and he couldn't move at all. And that night, the team was pretty excited. We had about 40 workers here, and we had some bear meat. We had backstrap and some eggs, and it was good eating. But also, we took care of a predator that could have caused a lot of damage. That's part of ministry in Alaska. Maybe if you do ministry in the streets of LA, you deal with a different kind of predator. Up here, we have to look out for the bears, and it's not uncommon to see wolves and such. Subsistence fishing and hunting is necessary in Alaska, especially in the interior Alaska. We're here on the Yukon Flats region, which is right in the middle of Alaska where the Yukon River comes down. We're on the upper Yukon. And the people, the indigenous people that have lived here, as well as those that have come in over the years and have lived here for generations, they live off of this river. Without the fish, they have trouble eating in the winter. Without the moose, without the caribou up north, I mean, these are the way these people feed their families. And so this fish wheel is one of the traditional ways to get it. This can work all night while you're sleeping in your tent. This fish wheel is one of the ways that we're gonna feed the kids for camp, as well as our staff. We run this traditional fish wheel, and it'll work at night while we're in the tent. You come and check it in the morning, and you'll have salmon or whatever species happen to be running. Right now the king salmon are running, and we're starting to get just a few of them. Although the season will be shutting down for a few days. It'll shut down tomorrow. We'll be running this thing this year as much as we can, collecting the fish that we need, not just for camp, but also to pass on to the elders so they can have fish in the winter time. Without subsistence fishing and hunting, people would be really having trouble finding food. I mean, they would have to ship everything in. Supplies, food, drinks, everything would have to be flown in or boated in. Summertime, you can send things in by barge. The barge will run up this river a couple times a year. The rest of the year, you're gonna have to fly things in, and you pay so much per pound besides what you paid in the city. And so it's really important to stock up on fish and canned fish and dried fish and smoked salmon and those things that you need, as well as moose and caribou and those things that you have access to. Logistically, this is the hardest thing that we do all summer. Getting out to this camp that we've built on the Yukon River is a logistical nightmare. I mean, a lot of people told us not to do it, but we just had to do it, even though it's hard, it's difficult, it's expensive, and it's most definitely dangerous. This year is no exception. This year we had what they call a 100-year flood. We had villages on the river evacuated. I mean, they literally fly in and evacuate everybody, women, children, and a lot of the adults out of the village and get ready for the floods. We were 5 weeks behind schedule this year because of the flood. Spring, the breakup happened really late. Normally breakup happens in early May. The ice starts to break up, go float downriver. then we're right behind it with our loaded boats traveling downriver so we can get into camp and set up. This year we didn't have that option. They closed off our entry area. The flood came in and dropped ice that was as big as houses and left it in the launching area. We couldn't get our boats through. So we loaded up and we went downriver to the bridge. We decided to try to go 150 miles upriver against the ice. Well, it looked like a good idea on paper. We had a team that we wanted to get in there and also a team that we needed to get some relief to, but it didn't happen so well. Both boats broke down. One ended up in a village with electrical issues, and we had to fly in parts for it. The other boat went on upriver. That was me and another intern. We made it about 80 miles from our destination, and we had some real issues with our jet unit. So here we were on an island, stuck with reports of big ice coming down as the Porcupine River had just broke loose. So we got ourselves in a safe position and just watched the water come up. Made a little camp, shot some ducks, and cooked them over a fire. We were there 4 days. In fact, we didn't have any water. So we had to go out to glaciers and chip ice off of the ice and put it in our bucket and let it melt in the sun. And it was pretty crazy, but it was quite an experience just to get to camp. We ended up having to abort that mission, get the boats back down to the river, back to the bridge, and we ended up selling one of our boats and then buying the one that we're driving right now, something that would carry a bigger load. Then it was back down river, another 150 miles, and get the boats into place. By the time I got to camp, we had already traveled over 500 river miles of difficult, dangerous water. We were the only boat for 2 weeks that I saw on the river. It was so dangerous, people didn't want to go out there, but we had to get to camp. It all turned out all right. We made it in 3 days before camp, pumped out the water, and had kids start arriving. And we ran a few weeks of camp before we knew it. It was crazy. It was definitely dangerous. People think we're nuts, and I guess we are, but we love these kids. We love these youth, and we do it again for them. Here on the Yukon, we're kind of limited to how we get supplies and how we get tools, how we get equipment, and how we get the basics of food. If I want a 25-pound bag of rice, I gotta fly it in. But first of all, somebody's gotta purchase it in town, put it on a small airplane, fly it out to a village, and then boat it to us. Often we use float planes. That's been a great thing for us. So if we get somebody with a float plane, they can land right on our lake, or they can land right on the river and boat right into our camp and drop it off by float plane. We love it when the float planes come in because it means we're gonna get supplies and we're gonna get them fast. That's life on the Yukon. When a plane lands, people mean, yay, we're gonna get something. When a boat comes in, it means, hey, supplies are coming. You rarely find somebody out on the Yukon in an empty boat. They're going to pick something up or they're going to drop something off. Nobody just boats leisurely. This is not one of those recreational rivers. You don't come out here to do recreation, you come out here to survive. Every boat has a sticker and it says, this is how much weight you can put in. Out here on the Yukon, you take the sticker and you throw it in the river, because the truth is, you'll never stay under the manufactured recommended weight. We've had 3,600 pounds on this boat, and we're flying into camp because we had to. When you show up to a village and kids start getting on, you don't know who's going to show up. When I'm gathering supplies or getting fuel, you don't know how much is going to get on the boat. Just a few weeks ago, we put 2,000 pounds of plywood on this boat just to get into camp so we could do the floors of some of our cabins. You've got to be ready, you've got to be resourceful, you got to play it safe, and safety is important to us. In fact, our motto is safety third. All right, so here's the order. Get the job done, number one. Number two, have fun. Number three, safety. Got to remember that safety.